everyone, it's Lori. I'm back. It's the Intuit Knit podcast. Thanks for joining me. It's October the 2nd in 2018. I better say that because it's been so long since I've actually been out there and been podcasting. I'm just checking where I'm looking here. I'm out of the mode of doing it. Thanks for joining me. This podcast is, about knitting, spinning, and any other creative things that I find myself doing. I appreciate your coming back and seeing my latest episode. I'm not exactly sure what episode this is. I think I took my last episode down after a period of time in that regular mode of self-analysis. So, am I presenting myself well? I took it down. So anyway, I'm back again today and just thought I'd share a few things that you might want to see that I've been working on in the meantime. It's fall, so I'm finding myself doing a lot of the things that you tend to do in the fall. I've been doing some canning, preserving, baking, and so that's been on my Instagram. If you find me on Instagram, I'm Intuit Knit on Instagram as well. So having fun doing all those things. I made some crabapple jelly from crab apples I'd found, and I made some dill pickles. My daughter came last weekend, so we were making pies and banana bread, and it was a nice day to spend with your daughter doing those kinds of things. It's lovely to connect, even though we don't live in the same town. It's nice to do those things when we get together. It's a good bonding activity to sort out, what we're doing in the kitchen. Anyway, I've been busy doing some spinning and knitting, and I may have to exit because I just realized I didn't bring some of my spinning over here to the table, but you can chat amongst yourselves when I go get it. I thought I'd share with you, first off, that in the Intuit Knit podcast Ravelry group, my last episode that is still up there, we talked a little bit about knit-along and a contest knit-along prize giveaway knit-along that I had hosted there. And it was entitled Lost and Found. And the challenge was to have people do knitting projects that reminded them of either the theme of lost or found. And so some of you did respond, and thanks so much for doing that. A few people did. And so I chose randomly one of the people that had entered, and her Ravelry name is Isobolt, Isobolt. So please connect with me if you see this on YouTube. If you watch this episode, I will also message you in Ravelry, and I'll get your mailing address so that I can mail you a prize. Not sure what it's going to be yet, but I'm going to look through some of your projects and your favorites and see if I can find something that would be a great addition to your collection. So what's been happening here? Well, I live north of Toronto, and there was a yarn festival last month, the first one of its kind here, and so I went to it. It was in Barrie, Ontario, and so it was great to have something local. That there was many vendors attending, and all of my spinning buddies, I connected with them there, and it was just such fun to go. It was held at a local curling arena, and very, very good venue for it, I found. So it was hopefully the first of many to come. I did make a few purchases, and I'll show you in conjunction with some of the projects that I'm working on what those were. I didn't actually buy a lot because I'll tell you about some of my future plans. But I did buy a book. There was a book vendor there, and this isn't a new book, but I did like some of the patterns in it, so I did buy this book, and it's of Knit to Flatter, and it's Amy Herzog book. She has a lot of designs featured in this book that do match different body types, and so I was quite interested in that. And it's always nice to see some models that aren't your traditional size 2 models, modeling things. And so I chose this sweater, and it's called the Danse's sweater. So it's Danse's sweater, and that's the photograph there. There's a better photograph here of how it will look in its finished product, and you see there's some lace details on the hem and also on the 3/4 length sleeves. So I'm busy working on that. I bought some yarn by a mill called the Mineville Wool Company Project. It's called Mineville Wool Project, but it's a company that's located in Canada, in Nova Scotia, I believe. And they put out some beautiful colorways, so I just really liked it. It's kind of between fingering and DK weight. The one I bought was more of a DK weight, so I'm making this Danse sweater out of this yarn. So I'll just show you what it looks like in the skein. It's this beautiful rust color, and I thought it was very autumnal, so I thought this would be a great sweater to wear in this time of year. And so I've got some headway on it here. Just show you where I'm at, hopefully without pulling the needles out of what I've got done already. So this is the front, and as you can see, I've got the lace edging completed here. In this variegated yarn, it's not going to probably show off quite as well as if I'd used a solid color, but I actually don't mind the effect. It kind of adds to the texture of it. So that's the lace edging, and then I have the back, which I've just been working away on this morning. So this is the back, which of course is longer because your back is longer than your front usually. And so yeah, I've got the lace edging on that too. So it's actually a nice sweater to work on because you can do the lace edging and then have some clear sailing, you know, with the stockinette stitch. And I'm quite enjoying that. I do like lace work, but I don't know that I like it for an entire project, so it is a good mix if that's your feeling. So yeah, that's a nice autumnal color. I'm planning on going to Rhinebeck this year, and I'm getting quite excited about that. I'm going with a bus of women starting out in Brampton, Ontario, and we're going to be making the day's drive on the Friday before, and then arriving for the weekend, and then coming back on the Sunday. So it's usually a wonderful time because you get to hang out with all the people that are interested in what you are, and then get to the hotel, and pretty much everything is looked after. The hotel, the bus ride, there's a few breakfasts thrown in, and then we all pack it all up and come home. So I'm hoping that we can get over the border without problem. I've heard a few stories lately that make me think I better, brush up on some of the answers I might want to give. But yeah, it's going to be a fun time, and so yeah, I'm hopefully going to be to the point where I will at least be working on the sleeves. And if I don't get it done before then, perhaps that's something I can do when I'm on the bus trip to Rhinebeck, is to finish the sleeves and maybe even sew it together. It is one of those piece garments, so it's not knit in the round, and so it's possible that I might be doing some of the inserting of sleeves, but that doesn't really challenge me too much when I'm on the trip. So yeah, that's a good thing to think of. Yeah, so I'm really enjoying this book. There's a few projects in here that I'm thinking I might take on. There's a beautiful vest here, which I'm really fascinated with vests lately. It's called the Minx Tank, and that's a good thing for layering if you like that sort of thing in the wintertime. I tend to, because sometimes I'm hot, cold, and I can't really decide which, and to have something you can layer is sort of a solving of that problem. Yeah, so that was a nice thing to purchase. I made this sweater, and this is called the Wind Down sweater. You can see it on my Instagram if you want to take a look at it in progress. It's a raglan sleeves top-down sweater. I made this also out of the Mineville Wool Project yarn, but I also included a little bit of fade effect with some other yarn that I had in my stash, which I actually don't know where it came from. And so I've done that with the sleeves as well as, so actually with these sleeves, you see the, just the knit sleeves with the stockinette, the garter sleeves was what I meant to say, garter sleeves with the stockinette, the cuffs with the stockinette sleeves. So I'll stand up just to show you. It's fairly form-fitting, and I'm not sure that you could say it suits me, but I'm actually okay with it. It has a bit of the garter edge that I've applied on the bottom. And so this is one of the only pullovers that I've made for myself. I hadn't made a pullover. I'd only made cardigans before, which are a little less challenging in the fit, because with a cardigan, of course, you can add or decrease the button band to make it fit around the bust. So I'm thankful that knit is stretched, so even if you get the sizing a bit wrong, it's not going to be too problematic. Yeah, so I'm quite happy with it. It's got that nice detail on the shoulders. It's called the Wind Down pullover. So it might have been on Knitty, I'm not quite sure. I did it some time ago, so, but if you search it on Rav, I'm sure it'll be there. So yeah, I'm quite happy with the color and the fit. I actually like raglan because it seems that it's a good fit for me. Yeah, I quite liked it. So I have another skein of this Mineville Wool Project wool, and except this one is this one's with 25% sheared Angora and 75% wool. So I was thinking of maybe doing some color work involving this yarn. Color work, maybe with a gray. I'm not quite sure. But tell me what you think, if the Angora would be good for color work. I don't know that I want a whole garment of Angora because I think it might be too hot. But I think with color work it could work well. I'm also interested in the whole technique of bohus. Bohus, is that how you say it? That kind of knitting where you have stitches that pop out in your color work. And I was thinking the Angora might work well for that. So if you have any experience with that type of knitting, let me know. I'd love to chat about it with you. So a lot has happened since I've seen you. Okay, so I'm going back and forth here in my usual way, but I did get a couple of skeins. I did get a couple of skeins of a local yarn too that was at the show in Barrie, and this one was from Lizzie Ann Yarns, and that's her label, Lizzie Ann Yarns. I found her colorways to be quite beautiful. This one's 85% merino, 15% nylon, and she's a Canadian hand dyer. So this one is called Sun Shower, and it's actually beautiful blues and golds. Not quite sure what I'm going to do with this, but I did get 2 skeins. So perhaps I could incorporate this into another fingering weight garment. Now that I've completed one, I'm on a roll. So this one is, how many are it? 400 meters each, so that should be enough to do a considerable amount of a garment, I'm thinking. Yeah, so that will be something soon. I don't know if many of you watch my program, but or see me on Instagram, but this past summer, my second son, who is 30, he got married, and that was an exciting time for for our family. It was just over the top, you know. I don't know if I could express the sentiment that a mother has when her son, you know, reaches the stage where he's, you know, off and potentially having his own family. And the fact that he's chosen such a wonderful woman to be his partner. But I just was so joyful with that all happening. There was a lot of things that were going on and consideration for it. It was the most exciting wedding, and you know, a lot of people said that it was the best wedding they'd ever attended, so that was really wonderful to hear that they thought so. I have a large family, and his father has a large family too, so it was, you know, a lot of the guest lists were taken up with just our two families alone, but it was so well thought out, so well planned, and my now daughter-in-law is a person who makes robots as her interest, and so she's very talented that way. And so there was a flower girl that was actually a robot, or a flower boy or flower girl. I'm not sure. It had a hat on, but it came up and distributed petals along the path, and then brought the rings up. So that was really a good little addition. And then at 11 o'clock, my son had hired a saxophone player to play amongst all the dancers. So we were accompanied by a saxophone player, and that was a really lovely thing to have as part of the festivities. And yeah, it was just perfect, and I'm so happy that it all worked out for that time. I don't actually have pictures to post on Instagram because I was so involved with enjoying the day, as you sometimes are. Like, you might not want to be taking up your time taking pictures the whole time. But yeah, it was really a good day. So in preparation for the wedding, I had lots of planning in my mind of how I wanted to dress, you know, for the mother of the groom. And I don't know if this happens to you, but if you have enough time, it's almost a handicap because you ruminate about, you know, what things you want to wear and so on. And so I don't know. I had 3 different dresses that I potentially could wear to the wedding, and consequently I was making shawls to go with some of them because I wasn't sure, you know, which one I was going to be wearing, so I wanted to have all the options open. As it turned out, I wore a sort of a taupey mauve dress with lots of detail in the actual fabric. Quite a plain dress, but it was quite detailed in the fabric. So I made this shawl that is a lace shawl, a little bit taken from the kindness shawl, but I changed up some of the design in the bottom to reflect, you know, the love that we witnessed that day at the wedding. So there's a heart motif in this shawl, and this is actually a silk, 100% silk. One time when I went to one of the yarn festivals in Waterloo, Ontario, there was a producer. Well, she wasn't a producer, but she was supplying. She was selling yarn that was from a carpet company that she had gotten offcuts from, silk carpet company. And so she had these on cones, this silk. And so what I did was I bought a cone of off-white silk, and then I dyed it myself. So there is a bit of variation in the color. Some of it looks pink, some of it looks a little bit mauve. But it actually worked out pretty well. On the bottom, I had a picot edge that I had applied, and on those little picots, I put little beads. So that was something that I added as well. I'm not sure if this is coming up on the camera, but and you'd be surprised with the weight that you get when you apply beads to the bottom of any garment. With silk, it's a very light fiber, so I wanted something that would kind of make it stretch out a little bit. And so I applied those beads and actually did work. Even though they're not that noticeable, it did sort of give a bit of weight to the garment. So yeah, I was happy with that. The other dress selection that I had was more of a emerald green, and it was sleeveless. So I thought that I might want, because the wedding was in August, I thought I might want a shawl to go around my shoulders, just because, yeah, it is hot when you're up dancing, but then, you know, if you go out into the balcony or you go outside, you're going to be chilly, so you'll need a wrap to go around yourself. So I made this one, and yeah. Now you're going to ask me which pattern this is, and I'm going to have to put it in my show notes because I've actually forgotten. But one thing I learned from this pattern was I don't really like these little baubles to knit. I like the effect of these baubles. You can see, I don't know if you can see that, but on some of the lace here, there's these areas where, it's right here, there's baubles that kind of stand out a little bit on the actual garment. And yes, I did do it, but I don't think I'd ever do it again. It's just one of those things that you learn when you try a new pattern. And actually, with this kind of yarn, it probably was a bit of wasted effort because it is a bit lost in the colorway, because the colorway is so variegated that you can't really make it out anyway. But yeah, that was one of my other makes for the summer. I did actually start a pair of mittens too. My son lives at a group home just not too far away from me, probably about a half an hour away from me, and I do appreciate the work that he gets in support of his life. And so when one of the workers said to me, oh, she likes a pair of mittens that I'd made, I thought, well, I think I'll just whip her up a pair. So I've been making these mittens. They're red and white, very Canadian looking. Just a worsted weight mitten. But she said that she liked red and white. I think she has a red jacket, so I'm making her a pair of mittens just to show her my thanks for all the work that she does for my son. So I've still got one more thumb to do. Yeah. So yeah, the other news that I have is that my daughter and I are planning our trip to Edinburgh next March. So when we were doing our cooking and our baking this past weekend, we were thinking about the trip and how we would organize our stops and where she wanted to go. She's quite interested in some of the historical sites and the fiction, the books that are being written about some of those histories lately. And so it was kind of a great time to connect and see if we could map out a choice of where we'd like to go. So it's exciting to think about it. I've been before to Edinburgh and looking forward to seeing lots of people. Helen, you're on my list of people that I need to see. I have to have a dose of Helen, Stitch with Sprite, and yeah, so we're looking forward to that. And I was going to show you some spinning, but I think I'll probably leave that for next time. We're just at a half an hour almost now, so I will be sending out that prize to the winner of the Cal, and hopefully a few people will watch this. If you do watch this episode, let me know that you're out there, because it's always nice to hear that people are actually watching. And I know I haven't been around for very frequently lately, so it'd be good to see you and hear from you. So until next time, I probably will podcast at least when I come back from Rhinebeck. I don't know if I will have an episode before, but yeah, hopefully you're all well, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.